Hello and welcome to English Talk Time, the podcast where we talk to artists about their process and their passion. I'm your host, Anna, and today I am so excited to have graphic designer and photographer Leo joining us. Leo, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Anna. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, your street photography has this incredible, timeless quality. It feels so raw and authentic. I have to ask, how did you get started? Was it always a passion?
Honestly, not at all. It was a complete accident. I was in college studying graphic design, and a friend of mine was clearing out his apartment. He had this old, dusty film camera, a Canon AE1 from the 80s, and he was just going to throw it away.
No way.
Yeah, and I just said, "Hey, can I have that?" I had no idea what to do with it. I bought a cheap roll of film, watched a couple of videos online about exposure, and just started walking around the city taking pictures of everything.
Wow. So it was film right from the very beginning.
It was. And what I love about that is it forced me to be patient. You only have 36 shots on a roll, so you can't just snap away. You have to wait for the right moment. When I got that first roll developed and I saw the images, even though most were terrible, a couple of them had this magic. And I was hooked.
That's amazing. For people who might not be familiar, what does street photography really mean to you? What does a typical day of shooting look like?
For me, it's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. It's about candid moments. It's not posed, it's just life happening. A typical day, well, I always have my camera with me. Always. But for a dedicated shoot, I usually just pick a neighborhood, put on some comfortable shoes, and walk for hours.
For hours? Really?
Oh yeah, patience is everything. Sometimes I walk for 3 or 4 hours and take maybe 5 pictures. Other days, the light is perfect and something interesting is happening on every corner. You never know what you're going to get. It's that feeling of surprise that I love.
The surprise, right. And you still shoot mostly on film, correct? In a world of digital cameras and smartphones, that's quite a commitment.
I do. I own a digital camera, and it's a great tool for my graphic design work, but for my personal projects, it's almost always film. What I love is the process. It slows you down. With digital, you can take 1,000 photos and check every single one on the spot. With film, you have to trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts.
Exactly. You have to be present and focused. You can't rely on looking at a screen. Plus, there's a certain look, a texture to film that I just can't replicate digitally. It feels more human somehow.
That makes so much sense. And what about editing? Your photos look so natural. Do you spend a lot of time on the computer afterwards?
I try not to. My philosophy is to get it right in the camera. I focus on composition and light when I'm shooting so that I don't have to fix things later. When I get the scans back from the lab, I might make a tiny adjustment to the contrast, but that's usually it. I never remove things from the frame or alter the reality of the scene.
So what you see is what you get. I love that. Can you tell us about a memorable moment? A photo that has a special story behind it?
Sure, there is one I took a few years ago. It was a rainy afternoon in November, the kind of day where most people stay inside. I was walking through a park and I saw an elderly couple sitting on a bench together under one big umbrella. They weren't talking. He was just looking out at the rain and she was leaning her head on his shoulder. It was such a quiet, beautiful moment. I was pretty far away and I only had one shot left on my roll. My hands were freezing, but I managed to frame the shot just right. It's still one of my favorite photos because it captures this simple, peaceful love.
That's a beautiful story. Your last shot on the roll, too. It was meant to be. How has looking at the world through a camera lens changed your perspective on a daily basis?
It's changed everything. Before photography, I think I walked around with my eyes half closed. Now, I always notice things. I notice the way light hits a building in the late afternoon, or the interesting patterns on a worn-out street sign, or the way two strangers might briefly smile at each other.
You're more present.
Exactly. It's taught me to see beauty in imperfect, everyday moments. The world just feels more interesting. It's a bit like a superpower.
It really sounds like it. You mentioned you started in graphic design. How do those two worlds, the very structured world of design and the spontaneous world of street photography, intersect for you? Do they feel separate or do they influence each other?
Well, from a design perspective, I've learned so much about composition, balance, and storytelling through photography. In graphic design, you're consciously arranging elements on a page to guide the viewer's eye. Street photography is the ultimate exercise in finding that same sense of balance and composition in a chaotic, uncontrolled environment. It's like a high stakes design challenge every time I go out. You have a split second to see the lines, the shapes, the light, and the human element, and to capture it in a way that tells a story. That practice has made me a much more intuitive and decisive designer. That's a great question. For a long time, I did see them as completely separate. Design was my structured, client focused work, and photography was my escape, my personal creative outlet. But over the years, I realized how much they feed into one another. My photography has made my design work better, and vice versa.
And does it work the other way around? Does your design background influence your photography?
That's a beautiful way to put it, a constant dialogue. That idea of finding your own creative passion is so important. For anyone listening who feels inspired by your story to try street photography, what advice would you give them? How so? My biggest piece of advice is just to start. Don't worry about having a fancy camera. The camera on your phone is amazing. The most important thing is not the gear. It's your eye.
Right. The best camera is the one you have with you.
That's it, exactly. Just walk. Look around you. Pay attention. Don't be afraid to take bad photos. Everybody takes bad photos. That's how you learn. Just be curious about the world.
That's fantastic advice. Okay, before we wrap up, do you have a funny or unexpected story from your time out shooting?
Oh, definitely. I was shooting in a busy market once, and I was trying to be very discreet, invisible. I was focusing on this incredible display of spices, all these vibrant colors. I took the photo, and as I lowered my camera, I realized the shop owner, a very large and serious-looking man, was staring right at me. Oh no! I froze. I thought he was going to be angry. He walked over to me, and I was preparing to apologize, and he just leans in and whispers, "Did you get my good side?" We both just burst out laughing. He ended up showing me all his best products, and I got some wonderful photos of him. It was a great reminder that people are usually friendlier than you think.
That is hilarious and so heartwarming. Leo, this has been such a joy. Thank you for sharing your passion and your stories with us. It really does make me want to go out and just look.
Thank you again for having me, Anna. It was a pleasure.
That's all the time we have for today on English Talk Time. A huge thank you to our guest, Leo. Join us next time for another conversation. Until then, keep your eyes open.